Hello YouTube collective. Right, so first thing to say is apologies, it's been a while since I've done one of these longer ones. Unfortunately, I've been really busy. I mean, fortunately for me, because I have managed to get some more work in, which has been good, but juggling between content, private readings, running events and psychic nights, it's got a little bit much. So yeah, so apologies first off. So today what we're going to do is we're going to do a bit of a kind of longer reading based on trying to kind of unpick what's going off with this situation with the world, you know, with the USA bombing Iran, Israel involvements. Obviously it's all tied into the Epstein files, etc, etc, etc. I've done some kind of slightly longer content. It's about 25-minute content that I post on my TikTok and YouTube. It's in the Down the Rabbit Hole, where I kind of discuss my beliefs and other creators and theorists' beliefs on what it's all about. So I'm not going to go into that because this is a tarot reading. But yeah, let's try and unpick first off kind of what's, I suppose we could call this a bit of a longer psychic spine reading. I might use a bit of a variety of cards, including the hermetics and the what's the tea as well as we go along. Just to remind you, if you are new here, please do subscribe. Feel free to add your comments in as well. And if you want a personalised reading with me, you can get priority same day guaranteed recorded readings via the Stand Store link on my bio. Right, so let's get a bit more detail in regard to what this is actually about. See if we can kind of clarify it with the cards. What are we kind of not being told, right? So I'm probably going to just do this in a more of a kind of intuitive style rather than explaining all the cards, because most of you guys who are here now tend to kind of get a bit of an idea for this. Right, okay, so we've got Seven of Cups, Queen of Swords, Eight of Pentacles in the reverse, Knight of Cups. Right, so with the Seven of Cups there, it often talks about an abundance of opportunity. It can talk about manifestation. Now, for those who don't know, the ascension process in essence is about reactivating, bringing forth and protecting the divine feminine energy, okay? So what I want to say with that Seven of Cups there is that we're kind of on the cusp. We're on the cusp of kind of cracking the nut, right? And the Queen of Swords, for me, is talking about the feminine energy out there. It doesn't matter if you're a man, woman, somebody non-binary, but they're starting to become awake, starting to realise their divinity, starting to realise their true power. Now with the Eight of Pentacles there in the reverse position, because this card often talks about kind of being frustrated, grinding away, etc, etc. Now I feel like this is a little bit of a double-edged sword, because I feel like the greater collective, specifically the feminine energies out there and the divine masculine energies who get this, they're becoming more and more frustrated with the situation, with the way life is. Because the further we go on this crazy train, the more that the elites, the people in charge, they're completely taking the piss, right? So just before starting this, I came across some content, and apparently Mr. Trump, in response, quote unquote, to Iran's Lego AI content, has done his own AI content. However, he's done content where he's flying a fighter jet and then he takes a dump on the United States of America. I mean, he's literally telling people what he thinks of the American people. Now, as I've said and as other creators have said, a lot of this is about control, number one, that might seem obvious, but also it's about how far can you push the idiots before they realise what we're doing. Case in point, let's go in a different direction. Obviously here in the UK, we've been seeing mass issues with potholes, and they're you know, some have been filled in, but they're terrible. They're wrecking people's cars. I mean, I've had to take mine for wheel alignment twice in the last, you know, month and a half. And people say, why aren't they filling them in? Because they're pushing us. They're saying, how far will these idiots go before they stand up and rise? Okay. So yeah, the greater collective is becoming frustrated with the situation. Okay. The Knight of Cups there, I feel like this is the powers that be. This is the elites, and they're coming in with these little kind of you know, it's promises of change. This is going to change everything, etc., etc. Now, as I always say, when you're in your power, you're king or queen. Kings and queens do not accept offers from knights or pages. Okay, I might change my mind about that Knight of Cups. It could be the waking up feminine collective starting to push forwards with what's going to make them happy. So let's continue. Yeah, I'm going to say that Knight of Cups is the greater collective. Waking up, right? So they're pushing towards. We are pushing towards star card. Hopes, dreams, aspirations, wishing on a bigger star, realizing that there can and there is a better way forwards. We don't have to live in this world. We don't have to live in this matrix where it is all controlled by the elites at the top. Why should we? Who gave them the right? You know. Now this is triggering the masculines, the toxic masculines, and the rulers. Okay, King of Cups in the reverse. So King of Cups in the reverse talks about emotional manipulation. Okay, so I've noticed an increase of late, specifically with physical men, whereby the toxicity is starting to come out. You know what I mean? The toxicity of saying vile things and putting people down and trying to manipulate the situation. But it does stretch across the board because, right, let's not forget that when we talk about masculine and feminine within tarot, we talk about energy, not gender. So if you're new here, let's just break it down. We all have masculine and feminine energies within us. Feminine energies are more nurturing, supportive, okay? Masculine energies are more driven and leadership, right? Now, in my belief system, I preach what we call duality, okay? And it is about balancing the divine masculine and feminine within you, okay? The divine masculine is supposed to protect the divine feminine, who will then nurture the divine masculine, okay? And the aim of the game for me is to balance those within you. So that if you are on your own, you can self-heal, you can self-protect. Number one. Number two, if you are in a connection and you're both within that duality, then you can swap and change roles depending on the situation, because you can't always be in one energy. It's impossible, you know. Now, the sad fact is that, you know, you do get a lot of women out there, physical women, who are in their masculine energy. They've been forced into it, okay? Due to societal change, due to, if they're in a heterosexual relationship, the physical man not being in his masculine energy, etc., etc. So there are a lot of women that out there in their toxic masculine energy. So you take the UK spiritual event circuit, for example. Most events are run by women and they're in their toxic masculine energy. Why? Because they're held out on control, power, greed. Okay. So it's the masculine energies. Now the masculine energies, they don't understand the concept because of the way life has panned out and the way the ruling class want it. That their space, it's not about being macho, it's not about taking people down, it's not about competition, it's about being a strong, confident person, okay, who knows their strengths, who understands and accepts their weaknesses, and at the right time will step forth to protect that feminine energy, okay? Now, most physical men or people in their masculine energy are in their toxic masculine energy, and they use tactics like emotional manipulation to stop others just to get what they want, because it's all about feeding the ego. Okay, and what you got to remember is when living here in a 3D matrix, it's all based about ego-based drive. You know, more money, bigger house, nice car. It's all driven by debase, lust-based sex. You know, you take kind of like Tinder in the Tinder generation. It's just next day, you know, fornication. It's not passion. It's not tenderness. It's not real deep rooted connection. And this is the world that we live in. Anyway, so we then got the Knight of Wands. Okay, so I feel like the Knight of Wands is the action taken by the King of Cups to put the greater collective, those who are awake, into the Ace of Wands in the reverse, questioning what we want. You know, what we're going to do about this, right? So let's just do one more row. Right, so we've got Two of Cups in the reverse, Justice in the reverse coming out. Oops, too many there. So yeah, with the Two of Cups in the reverse coming out there, yeah, I'm not surprised to see that. Right, so the Two of Cups in the upright position, divine counterparts. It's in the reverse position, right? So, I mean, me personally, I believe I am in a divine connection. I believe I come from OG, original source energy, and I believe that my partner Lucy is my divine counterpart. Okay. Now it's interesting because somebody said to me a while back, you know, at the time I was on my own, I was single still, and they said, how do you know when you've met your divine counterpart? And I said, to be quite honest with you, I don't know, because I've not met them yet. Having met them, is it all fireworks and sunshine and lollipops and no, because you're constantly under attack. You're constantly under attack with black magic, people trying to creep in and cause trouble. Any issues that people or the system, the matrix can cause to keep you apart, they will try it. Okay, why? Because that connection, that true love connection of two divine souls within their duality triggers change, right? So for lower vibrational people, it just triggers and irritates them. Okay, makes them angry, makes them toxic. For other people who are in connections whereby it's not their person, it wakes them up to the fact that they're not in the right connection. Okay, now that might sound awful because you're basically saying that divine couples are going round and other couples are splitting up, but that's the point. Because again, the whole system is set up around us so that you're in the wrong relationships. You know, you just settle. Why? Because then you're unhappy, and when you're unhappy, you consume. Nothing more, nothing less. Now, the powers that be, the elites, they know this, okay? So what they are desperately trying to do is oppress the divine feminine energy, keep divine couples separated, okay? Because they are the ones who are going to trigger the next wave of evolution, if you want to call it that, spiritual evolution. So they want to keep the divines apart and stop them from getting justice. Now, with the Queen of Wands, followed up by the Empress, what I want to say with the Queen of Wands there, because she's not divine feminine energy, she is feminine energy, and I have sometimes say this in my readings, the Queen of Wands might sometimes come up, however, it can sometimes be an illusion. Right, so it's when somebody thinks that they're in their feminine energy, and feminine energy is about knowing your worth and value, not chasing, attracting. There's a big difference between being confident, so being a strong, confident woman, and being in your feminine power. Because being in your feminine power, number one, it stretches across all areas of your life. You know, it's not about kind of thinking, oh yes, I'm in my feminine power, so I'm going to be good at everything. No, because that's kind of arrogant, toxic, masculine thought process. It's about understanding what you're good at, what you're not so good at, and even if you're not so good at something, or even if you think you can be terrible at something, when you're in your feminine power, you have the confidence to give it a go and kind of go, do you know what? If I look a fool, I look a fool, because I know that it's not one of my skills, right? So it's almost like this false idea that feminine power is coming out, but then we got the Empress in the reverse, upright position. She's the divine feminine. It's in the reverse position again. This is the whole plan, is about suppressing that divine feminine energy, because the feminines in the collective are waking up. Okay, they're starting to realize that we don't have to live this way. Okay, we do have other opportunities. The frustration's kicking in, and they're starting to push forwards with what could make them happy, starting to look bigger, wish a partner a bigger star. That's then triggering this toxic masculine energy. So they're rushing forth so that we don't then, you know, focus on what we want, how we're going to make the change. It's going to keep the divine connections apart so we don't get justice. We get hoodwinked, we get tricked into thinking, oh, this feminine power's there, but it's all about the suppression of the divine feminine, okay? Right, so I'm just going to pull some hermetics, actually, and just see if they can give me some clues, if you want to call it that, in regard to anything that's kind of going off in the background. That's a little bit more either sinister or that we need to know. Right, okay, so we've got the Wheel of Fortune. Then that's got followed up by the Four of Swords in the reverse, Lord of Rest from Strife. And then we've got the Star card back in this deck in the reverse position, Daughter of the Firmament. So what I'm kind of drawn to on the Wheel of Fortune on this deck is that you've got the kind of Amun-Ra Egyptian character at the very top. It's probably a bit hard to see from that angle. Now, if you watch my other content that I did, my talky content, my down the rabbit hole content, I'm basically explaining how the Anunnaki become the kind of Egyptian pantheon. You know, there's a crossover there in Sumerian. He's called Marduk. In the Egyptian pantheon, he's called Amun-Ra. You know, and as I say on that, it's been very well quoted specifically by Billy Carson. The word amen, or amen, as we normally say over here in the UK, is actually in praise for Amun-Ra. So you've got all these religious people going around going amen or amen. That's who they're praying to, okay? So it feels like what's going off in the background is that this Anunnaki energy is being fed, right? It's being fed in the background. Now, what came to my mind as well with that Wheel of Fortune there, because it's in a circle, the word CERN came to my mind as well, as in the CERN Hadron Collider. And anybody who goes down the rabbit hole by even a small amount knows that there's something going off there that we're not being told. You know, I've heard lots and lots of different theories. I'm not going to go into it right now. So it feels like there's a power shift, well, an attempted power shift going off in the background to go towards this Anunnaki energy. And it's to keep us constantly on edge, constantly under this pressure, constantly fretting and worrying about money and paying the bills and the prices of everything, okay? And that's going to then aim to stop us from hitting that star card potential, that new earth that, you know, that has been promised to us for God knows how long by the New Ages and stuff like that. Because what you got to remember is that everything is frequency. You control your reality with your own mindset. So, case in point. So today I woke up and I was feeling a little bit tired. I was feeling a little bit agitated. I was being kind of tested by people out there in the world. Now, the way I see it is that this stuff comes in to deliberately disrupt and affect our frequency. Because when you're vibing high, when you're feeling good, when you're out there, when you're knowing, when you're believing, you're projecting what you want. So if I wake up and I'm feeling pretty good, I'm feeling positive, I'm on point, you can guarantee that the readings come through. When I'm having a day like today, where I'm feeling groggy, I'm feeling slow, I'm feeling sluggish, it's been few and far between. Few and far between, you know. And the irony of it is, if I have a day where I wake up and I've got a few readings stacked up to do, I'm already like, yeah, this is it, you know, it's good. And then that kind of bankrolls it. And you carry on the day, and then another one comes through, another one comes through. When I'm having days like today, it feels like a struggle. Now, from my experience, the worst thing I can do is start going, oh my God, that's it, blah, 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 blah. Because then you're in that lower frequency. Now, you take that to a mass scale, whereby everybody's getting squeezed and squeezed and squeezed and squeezed, and the prices are going up, and people are talking about death and destruction and war and stuff like that in very negative sense. That then feeds the greater collective, okay? And then that feeds into the collective consciousness, which then you've got lots of people funneling the same idea, the same belief into the same system, and then that creates a greater reality. Okay, so this is why I always say to people, there's nothing to be scared of. There's nothing to be scared of. You know, is there bad stuff out there? Yes. Have you experienced bad stuff? Yes. But once you understand and you know that your perception, your mindset controls and dictates your own reality, there's nothing to be scared of. Once you start seeing life for what it is, which is that we're basically trapped in a video game, it's not real, you know. You know, when you pass over, for example, you're not dead. This is just an avatar, this is a vessel. You are eternal, you are energy, you know. And once you understand that, you start removing the fear. Right, anyway, so let's go on to another spread. And we'll kind of see how things are looking like they're going to start panning out, so to speak. And we'll shuffle. Right. Right, okay, so as it stands, and I'm going more from a kind of greater collective energy here, we've got the Ten of Swords, Knight of Pentacles in the reverse, Hierophant in the reverse. Welcome back. In true authentic style, I cocked up. I forgot to format the first memory card. Yeah, c'est la vie. Right, so yeah, you know, for me, you should hustle, okay? You should hustle, but at some point you've got to go, I've done as much as I can do for the day, I'm going to take a step back. And then when you take that step back, knowing that you have done everything that you can do for that day, that's when the flow happens. Right, so Ten of Wands in the reverse, as I say. So there's a reluctance to let go of this 3D mindset, this shift, because the problem is when you go into periods of lack, you know, what we should do as a society, as a world, is work with each other. But because we've been programmed under this capitalist system and belief system, it then turns into pitching people against each other. So, case in point, you know, when things like petrol become short, really we ought to go, well, do I need a full tank? I've got half a tank. You know, if everybody kind of had that mentality of I'm not going to rush out and panic buy, I'll be fine. But the fact is that we live in a society, in a world where people go, oh, I've got to put myself first. You know, you take the toilet paper crisis back in 2020 and stuff like that. Sadly, people are immoral. They put themselves first beyond anybody else. You know, you should put yourself first, don't get me wrong, but it shouldn't be all me, 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 me. And people who have that kind of mindset, they're never going to elevate to the 5D, because that kind of, it's all about me, greed, is a very 3D materialistic attitude and belief. So there's going to be this reluctance to release this fear, this programmed mindset of feeling defeated. Well, what am I going to do? The problem is, you want real change. Well, somebody's got to do it. I'm doing my part by doing this content, you know what I mean? And the content that I do, I'm trying to get through to people. You might say it's not a lot. Is it enough? I don't know. You tell me. But, I'm doing everything that I can think of doing within my skills and my remit. That's going to keep the collective out of alignment. Now, what then's going to happen is Ace of Pentacles. I feel like it's almost like... I feel like this is talking about the shift's going to go on to money. The shift's going to go on to finances, and kind of what I was just talking about there. And the Wheel of Fortune then is going to remain in the reverse. It's going to be this negative lack mindset of the greater collective. Now, like I say, if you can stay positive, if you can remove the fear programming around the situation, and know that you'll be fine, you know what I mean? You'll get through, Source's got you back. You won't be affected by this. The chances are, if A, you're watching my content, and B, you've stuck it out this long, the chances are you do have a greater purpose and role. Therefore, you're going to have a better understanding of what this is all about. Right, so let's pull a few more Hermetics again, just to see if there's any clues behind that. Right, so I feel like this is more advice for the collective that's kind of watching this, and it's kind of based on what I've said there. So 9 of Cups, Lord of Material Happiness. Now it always makes me kind of laugh, if you want to call it that, with this card, because it's called Lord of Material Happiness. Well, you'd expect to equate that with Pentacles, but it's actually Cups. Princess of Pentacles, Princess of the Echoing Hills. Okay, and then the Devil card in the reverse. So what this is saying to me is, if you, the collective watching this, can stay in this happy, abundant energy and not dip into that fear, despite feeling a bit naked and vulnerable, that's going to help to kind of break this devil energy. Okay, so let's just go a little bit further. So as it stands, the greater collective they're fully entrenched in this bullshit, basically, aren't they? So let's see where we go from here. Now, the other thing that I want to say is that, for me personally, I don't believe the ascension process is going to happen fully in my lifetime, and I've said this for the last couple of years. So I've removed this, we've got to do it as quick as possible, because it's going to take a lot longer than that, you know what I mean? Now I've seen some content about something called Project Looking Glass, and it's basically believed that the elites have been able to look into the future, okay, with this Project Looking Glass, and in every possible conceivable outcome, they lose. They lose and we win. The only way that they can they can't win, but the only way they can continue is to maintain this loop effect. So this is why it's always the same films that get remade. It's nostalgia being brought up, and they were talking about nostalgia as well, and saying that, a few years back you'd be nostalgic for the 80s and then the 90s, and nowadays they're putting nostalgia in regard to things which happened a year ago, 6 months ago, because it's about looping. It's about keeping us trapped in a loop. Okay, interesting concept, that one. And I do believe it. I do believe it, because some of you will have seen on social media, specifically on TikTok, and you get this, remember when what it was like at school in the 80s and the 90s, or coming back from school in the 80s and 90s, and they show images of this, you know, of TV shows or things from school, and it's got this horrible, I don't know how people can listen to this, really horrible what music over the top of it. And for me, and I said this a while ago, it's designed to keep you trapped in this nostalgia. You know what I mean? Because you're looking back to a time that you're longing for. You can't get that back. You cannot get that back. And it kind of frustrates me, because I think, why would you want to go back? You know, why, you know, yes, you might have a, you know, I didn't particularly like to think I had a great childhood, don't get me wrong, but even if you had a great childhood, why would you want to go back? Why not make a better future? You know, especially if you've got kids, make a better future for your kids. Don't be looking back at going, oh, I had a great childhood, I'd love to relive that. Make a better future for your kids and the kids of today. That's what I don't get. I don't get the mentality of people. I really, really don't. Right, anyway. Right, so something's going to happen. Something's going to happen. So we've got the Lovers in the reverse, Devil card in the reverse. So it's interesting that the Devil in reverse has come out twice. Knight of Wands in the reverse, Queen of Wands in the reverse. Right, so with the Lovers card, when that came flying out in the reverse, I thought, oh God, you know, the Greater Collective, they're losing even more kind of passion and drive. I don't think it is. I kind of want to link back to that Divine Counterparts, Two of Cups in the reverse card. I feel like there's going to be this shift, possibly because you and I watching this are focusing on what we're doing. And I feel like there's going to be disturbance, particularly within connections, love connections, that aren't divine. And there's going to be fallout and friction. I feel like something's going to happen so that the Greater Collective then starts seeing behind the mask and goes, we need to break this devil energy. Okay, that's going to put the elites, Knight of Wands in the reverse, that's going to put them on hold. And the Queen of Wands in the reverse there, I feel like that's the illusion of the Greater Collective, specifically the feminine energies going, shit, we're not in our feminine power. It's a lie, we've been lied to, right? Let's see where this is going. Right, so after the realization, Queen of Wands in the reverse, so we've got Six of Wands in the reverse, Knight of Cups in the reverse, Ace of Wands, Page of Swords in the reverse. So I feel like, well, the Six of Wands in the reverse, feeling kind of like there's nothing to celebrate. So I'm going to say that's the elites. They're going to feel like, oh no, we've not got anything to celebrate now. So they're going to be forcibly refused any more knights offers. And as I always say, you know, if you're used to getting pages offers and then you get knights offer, my God, it seems amazing. It's about 3 to 4 times better than a knight's offer. And this is how people get hoodwinked in love, in career, whatever. And it feels like the elites, this is what they've done. They've sent in a knight's offer, or there's going to be a knight's offer that comes in. But it's going to get seen through. The Greater Collective is then going to go Ace of Wands, right? What do we want? What do we want? You know? And that's going to put the end to this Page of Swords in the reverse. So the Page of Swords, it's illusionary. Peter Pan type character, lots of promises, pie in the sky ideas, never materialises into anything, okay? So let's pull some more hermetics and then I might get some what's the tea out. Right, so anything else from the hermetics, please? Right, Seven of Cups. Yeah, I'm just backing up what I said there. Lord of Illusionary Success. So that's that Knight of Cups energy that I was talking about. Right, so Seven of Cups, Lord of Illusionary Success, as I say. We then got the Princess of Cups, Princess of the Palace of the Floods. So again, we're talking about feminine energy here. Now, because in the Hermetic Tarot deck, it's princesses. You've got knights as well, but you've got princesses. Well, a princess isn't a queen. Okay, so it's almost like the greater collective realizing that they're not in that feminine power. They're still a bit vulnerable, okay? But that acceptance will kind of bring them back to base camp so that they can then kind of focus on Six of Wands, Lord of Victory, okay? So yeah, I haven't really put any mass time scale on that first part of the reading, so I'm not going to say when that's all going to play out. But as I said earlier, these elites, if this Project Looking Glass is to be believed, they can't win. They won't win. This moment in time, this moment in history has been foretold. It's been destined. So there's no way of them winning. The only way that they can kind of maintain survival is, like I say, is by looping us, keeping us stuck in a loop, trying to use CERN to, take us back in time, to alter time and stuff like that, but it won't work, Source did not bring its chosen here for this specific moment in time in history to bring this change, to lead us into the new earth, if you want to call it that, if it didn't know that we were going to win. You know what I mean? It's as simple as that. Right, so let's get out some What's the Tea, have a little fiddle with them and just see if there's anything that we need to know with those. Right, so legal issues, facing court matters, paperwork delays, dealing with authority. I mean, that could tie into the Epstein files side of things. Fake accounts, lurking on your socials, hidden identity, can't stop watching you, inside scoop, a closer look, knows you up in your business. Right, so what this feels like is, I don't really want to talk about the greater collective here, because again, if you're watching if you watch my content and you understand what I'm saying and it triggers any kind of response, especially with content like this, which is more down the rabbit hole rather than your standard you and them readings, the chances are you have some greater purpose. You could be chosen, you could be a starseed. Okay, so what this feels like is, with the legal issues there, I feel like the legal issues mounting against our attackers, our controllers, our handlers, it's I want to say legal issues in more in a spiritual sense, because we know that the legal system here is corrupt. You know what I mean? It's secret handshake jobs. The lawyers, the doctors, the surgeons, the politicians, etc. They're all in that secret handshake club. You take politicians, for example. Virtually every one of those specifically go to get put in specific schools and then specific universities, because they are basically trained to be liars and manipulators. Okay, politics isn't about fighting for the right cause, for your people, for your constituency. It's a factory. It's a fraud factory. Now, the sad fact is, most people know this, but again, we become disillusioned. We think that we have no power. Now, I'm telling you, you do have the power. You have the power within you to make any changes that you want. Okay, but you've got to believe that, and until you believe that, there will be no change. Now, you start on a personal, individual level, okay? And then you preach what you want to preach moving forwards. As I say, most of the world is non-player characters. They're not real people, but they are controlled by the collective consciousness. And as it stands at the moment, the collective consciousness is controlled by those who understand how to manipulate dark energies within Source. So to bring the real shift and the change, people like you watching, you need to realise that in your life, in your individual life, you have the power to make the changes. They're not easy changes. They're not supposed to be. Because to understand your divinity and to understand the power within you, you have to make those hard choices. Cutting people off, moving away, changing that job, ending that crap relationship. Okay? You have a choice. Just stop and think about it. Is anybody forcing you in that? And even if they are, why are you letting them force you? You have a choice. Even if it's a choice to go and get help. Once you people watching make the choices and the changes you require for you to make you happy and you raise your vibration, once there's enough of us who have removed the fear, removed the self-doubt, seen through the veil and the illusion, seen through the bullshit, realise that you've been lied to your whole goddamn life by people who have also been lied to. Once we hit critical mass, that is when the non-player characters will shift and change. Okay, but yeah, legal issues, I feel it's more kind of astral. Okay, now because I feel like this collective watching, you've got a greater purpose and role, you are being monitored, and I'm not saying that to make you paranoid. Okay, and a lot of the time it's not people sat there at their office desk monitoring you like the picture depicts. It's dark energy. Okay, it's an energy network. It's a system. We are being monitored. Right, let's continue. Faking inside scoop, closer look, nosy up in business. So yeah, there's people or systems or organisations. They are keeping tabs. Okay, you know, I'm a targeted individual. I've had this for a long time now. Right, so we've got fake flexing, thief, and then boss daddy. Right, so the energy around for this collective is they're being monitored by some kind of person, organisation, collective, coven, whatever. They're acting rich. They're making out that they've got this power, but what they're actually doing is they're just thieves. They're robbing. They're siphoning. They're taking off others, and they've got some level of authority. Okay, with the boss daddy card there. Okay, so let's just do a few more. Right, so we got rejected. Right, so rejected an offer, romantic love affair. Right, so rejected, ghosted, hardened, ignores or erased, an offer, genuine intentions, door opening, are you ready to receive, romantic love affair, sex fix, secret lover, passion over loyalty. Right, what it feels like is that you have somebody, not necessarily in your close proximity energy, but in your energy who you've rejected, either a love interest, probably is a love interest, or it could be a co-worker, a former co-worker, an old friend, etc, etc. Now, with an offer, I kind of want to go two ways. I feel like you watching, I feel like you are going to get a genuine offer from somewhere soon, okay, some opportunity, etc. But I feel like this person who's rejected, they've also taken an offer, but for darker reasons, okay? And it's because what happens is when people get rejected out of your circle, be it they're a friend, be it they're a potential lover or an actual lover, rather than just accepting that you don't want them in your energy anymore, they turn, they shift, the ego kicks in, okay? And then they become a little bit obsessive, okay? So let's just do a few more. Right, bad reputation. Dirty, yeah, look at that. I mean, you couldn't make it up, could you? So the dirty offer is landing on top of the genuine offer. So, as I say, you've got a genuine offer coming in. This person's taken a dirty offer, okay? They're haunted, memories, flashbacks, trauma, and side effects, right? So, don't feel just because a person doesn't work for the CIA or they're tapped into government agencies, etc., etc., that they're not an operative. Because people can be very, very easily manipulated and swayed and coerced by energies, by thoughts. You know, dark energy works mainly with your thought processes, with your mental health. You know, you go outside into the greater wide world out there and you've got these towers and structures all emitting frequencies and stuff like that. If you think that they're not having an effect and they're not implanting stuff into your head, you better think again. Okay? So yeah, I just want to say to this collective, just be aware that there is somebody who's I want to say that they've been manipulated because there is a genuine offer coming in for this collective, either love or job offer or financial, etc, etc, etc. Right, this person's getting bad karma. They're a spiritual hater. Mad you're glowing up, thinks your magic is fake, low vibers only. And again, obsessive lover, slightly different on this one. Clinging, controlling, can't let you go, karmic and chaotic. Yeah, this is part of their karma. They're exposing themselves, or they're going to expose themselves to who they really are, okay? And it's because they've become obsessed with you. Why? Because, like I say, my collective, the ones who watch these videos, you've got a bigger purpose, okay? It's time to accept that, okay? It's time to accept that these people around you, they're very easily controlled. A lot of them will be non-player characters, okay? Look out for the signs. Non-player characters give cues. They repeat certain things. Don't get me wrong, I repeat myself all the time. I've got my little quips and quotes, but you know, I'm on social media all the time. Now, the subtle nuances with the non-player characters in regard to how they say things, okay? So pay attention, use your pattern recognition. This collector is going to be fine. You're hustling, making it rain, focus on the bag, money is the mission. Yeah, don't you know, like I say, this war, this regime that controls us, it is going to carry on longer than what you might think, but just remember, it's all an act, it's a performance. 90% of spiritual war is psychological. They're trying to get into your head, they're trying to bring your vibration down, they're trying to make you feel fearful and hopeless, stuff like that. You'll be fine. Just keep an eye on those operatives around you. There you go. If you want to unpick your situation, as always, you can book phone and video chat or get a priority same day guaranteed. Obviously, they won't be quite as long as that if it's recorded. So yeah, just find the Stand Store link on my bio. You can get it via there. And until next time, I will say ta-ta for now.